Yo, what's up, hoop heads from around the globe, and welcome to another episode of Buzzer Beaters. I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is my co-host, Anthony Tuan Corral, and we are here to talk about the finals. And oh my gosh, we have a doozy of the finals on our hands right now.
Yeah.
Since the last time we had this podcast, 2 games have passed, namely Game 3 and Game 4. Now, we know that New York was up 2-0 and they won on the road. And we thought, oh my God, it's a wrap. And now the Spurs are going to they're in a must-win situation in Game 3, which they did win. Okay, but it wasn't a blowout. It was close. They did win. And then, maybe they thought they figured something out, because in Game 4, they came out they were going gangbusters, man. They were shooting lights out. They were shooting like 56% from 3 in the first half. They had a 29-point lead, man. 29-point lead into the second half, and they still lost. Unbelievable what happened, bro.
Incredible.
So the question I'm posing right here, brother, is what the hell happened to the Spurs in Game 4, and can they recover to win the series, or is it over and the Knicks win it all, bro? Tell me what you saw, what your observations were. Let's open talkingly about this stuff.
So I got a couple of points here. Some that kind of annoyed me, some that I think couldn't be helped. So how did the Knicks come back? I mean, I've heard this said many times before. For those of you that have watched The Replacements, an old football movie with Keanu Reeves, they call it the quicksand. I call it the avalanche. You're in an opponent's arena. The crowd is getting louder and louder as the team gets closer and closer. And all of a sudden, everything's falling on top of you and you can't control it. And it's getting out of your control. That is, I think, what happened to the Spurs. However, within that statement, there's some things that really I have to question. And I don't know who to question, whether it's the coach calling the plays or the players taking ill-advised shots. But really, you said it. In the first half, they were on fire. They couldn't miss from 3. Yep. And it seems to me like they spent the whole second half trying to get back that fire that they had in the first half.
Yes.
They've got the biggest player in the NBA go down low. They've got Stephon Castle, who can draw fouls. They've got Harper, who can draw fouls. They've attacked the hoop, man. Get the 2 points.
Yes.
Continuously get the 2 points. There was a period there, I want to say in the early fourth quarter, where the only points they were scoring were from Harper, Wemby, or Castle getting fouls called. And so to me, the biggest problem there was that they were still trying to shoot that 3, and they should have just played, you shoot 3s, we'll shoot 2s, and we'll keep you spread apart. That was one. The other one was the one that I think really bit them, was that turnover, I want to say within 24 seconds, where DeAndre Fox goes down the court and tries to shoot a layup and gets blocked.
Oh, that was unbelievable, man.
That, to me, was one of the biggest mistakes of the whole game. DeAndre Fox should have turned that around, came back to the three-point line, never shot, get fouled, and keep playing the foul game.
Yes.
And I think that if they would have done that, they would have won. But he got excited. He wanted to end the game then and there. It turned on him, and I think that if we're going to talk about one particular play, obviously they lost the game from a lot of plays, but we're going to talk about one particular play that stood out to me. It was that one.
Unbelievable play, man. And I got to tell you, man, right now, odds-on favorite to be the MVP, in my opinion, is OG Anunoby. Unbelievable play. He played lights out. He's the main reason why the Knicks stayed in that game, because he was playing both ends of the floor. He was unbelievable, and he's the guy who blocked DeAndre Fox's or De'Aaron Fox's shot, right? And then he goes back on the other side and does the winning tip as well. It's amazing. And when De'Aaron Fox decided to make that layup, or try to, he was just jazzed, right? He wasn't thinking, man. He was like,
no, he was not.
And the thing is, bro, is that they were only up 1 at that point. So if De'Aaron Fox were to go ahead and make a layup, that's a 3. And, the Knicks can still go ahead and go down the court and tie it. So you're right. He should have went ahead and just, turn it around, slow everything down, take the game clock all the way down to, wherever it was at that point. I think it was like maybe like 9 or 10 seconds left if he had,
Correct.
wound it all the way down. But then he could have drawn the foul. Had Stephon Castle, Victor Wembanyama go to the hoop and get a foul right and do the three, 2 points from that, or hopefully get 2
Well,
points because
the Knicks would have had to have fouled because they were down a point. They couldn't just let the clock expire. He
Right.
would have gotten fouled.
He would have gotten fouled for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But then again, you would have still been in the same boat of getting a maximum of 3-point advantage going, but then less time for the Knicks to try and get that, right? But the thing is that play was definitely the turning point. De'Aaron Fox, unbelievable, he's getting paid a lot of money. And granted he's a little injured, but the thing is he's out there playing, so there's no excuse. The thing is he's got to be smarter, as a point guard to be able to, essentially get everybody on page and just say, hey, look, we got to slow things down. He didn't do that. He just got excited and dude, and the rest is history. It was an historical, monumental meltdown by a team that was up by 29 points. And I got to tell you, bro, what really stood out to me so far about this series, the Spurs are deeper. They are. They're young.
They are.
But they are unproven in the playoffs, right? They kind of, they're way ahead of schedule right now, right? They were not even they were a play-in team not even a play-in team, or play-in team last year, and then all of a sudden over the 2 seed, and there's a process to get there, right? They just essentially almost circumvented the process and accelerated to get to this point. But you can see that their playoff experience is lacking, and and the coach is relatively new too. He's not a seasoned coach too, so he's learning on the fly as well, and he should have been calling timeouts earlier when this whole avalanche that you talked about started happening. He didn't slow the game down, didn't slow the momentum down. That's a great Popovich 101 thing, is that even if a guy goes on a 4-0 run, he stops the momentum. That's what he does. He's very notorious for doing that. And Mitch Johnson, should have probably, tapped into that. Something, I'm sure Popovich was one of the things that he taught these guys, especially his coaching staff, especially Mitch Johnson. You got to stop the momentum of the team when it starts getting out of hand. And he just completely got lost and didn't do it. And unfortunately, it cost him, and it's likely going to cost him the entire finals. But I see the Spurs winning Game 5 for sure. And I think, if that happens, if they discover something, they have to go ahead and replicate what they did in the first half. And then if they do that, because their energy was through the roof, bro. Their energy was really good defensively and offensively, and they couldn't miss. They were shooting lights out. They have to focus on the energy the entire game, man, because in games 2 and 3, you can see that the Spurs were kind of getting tired. And in this game, they weren't. They were pretty on it. I think they were like, razzed up from, just adrenaline, because they were killing it, right? And they're like, oh my God, we got this. And then mentally, they just broke down. They didn't stop the momentum. And dude, got to give it up to the Knicks, man. They
Absolutely.
They could have easily given up, bro. And
Absolutely.
So I got to commend the Knicks on that too.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, some of the trends that I've seen in this game, almost every game, the Spurs have come out hot. The Spurs have taken an early lead. They've taken a double-digit lead, I want to say, in every game thus far to this point. And then the second half seems to belong to the Knicks. That's been the trend.
Always that way. It's been that same pattern.
Correct. With the exception of game 3. Game 3, the Spurs figured out a way to keep their distance. And therefore, the critical mistakes, any mistakes they may have made in those last minutes, didn't cost them. But right now, the 2 mistakes that I see that stand out is that De'Aaron Fox layup and the Wemby pass to Castle's back. Those 2 plays, you change those plays, and they're probably up 3-1. They're probably up 3-1. So
I agree.
So and the troubling fact on De'Aaron is that he's a veteran. He doesn't have much playoff experience, so I don't want to penalize him for that. But he's a veteran. He should have, cooler head should have prevailed. He should have rolled out. Time's the enemy here. And that should have been the message from the coach. Time's their enemy. Whenever we can eat time over scoring a bucket, unless you know 100% that bucket is guaranteed.
Yep.
And so to me, that was really the gist of it. But like you said, OG Anunoby, he remained calm. I don't know if you saw him. They talked to him after the game. He was hella mellow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, this guy's pulse looks like it's like 70. He's just like, we just got to keep watching the video. So I'm curious to see how the game starts off in Texas. Are the Knicks going to try to put more energy in the beginning and then
They're
create
going
some
to.
separation in the back? Well, we'll see because I've kind of been hoping they were going to do that all the way through the first 4 games and they haven't. And so to me, San Antonio needs to have that same energy in the first half, and I think they need to analyze how they want to play the second half. And there was so many plays where Wemby is just tapping the ball to himself, or they're throwing the ball up and only he can get it. And they really need to take advantage of that during crunch time. He really needs to. He's not a post player per se.
No.
He's really long, so he has these
Yes.
weird post moves that look like they
Yes.
shouldn't go in, but they do. But
Right.
he really needs to focus more. Like the first half, focus more on stretching the court, and then the second half, focus more on interior offense and being more of a shot blocker. The other thing too is they had Jalen Brunson rolling around and they had Wemby trying to protect the three.
Yes.
And I get why they do that, but that's why Anunoby was able to attack the hoop.
You do the tap. That's why you got the tip.
Yeah,
Yep.
you got to pick your poison there. And I'm not sure that chasing around Brunson is necessarily the right idea because once Wemby's out, the rest of the team is smaller. They're not
Yes.
significantly big, and so someone like Anunoby is going to be able to attack the rim, and really not too many people can stop him at that point if it's not Wemby. So you kind of need to think that through as well.
The one thing that I want to point out about, one thing I'll tell you right now, Wemby is ridiculous, dude.
He is.
He's unfreaking believable. But there is definitely room for improvement for his game. And the one thing that's glaring to me right now is if he's not shooting the three and he's not kind of putting up a put up basket, a put up basket. He tries to kind of make everything a drive to the basket and try
Yeah.
a crazy layup. He needs to figure out. He needs to get back into the lab, if you will, and figure out some down low post moves. Maybe get Olajuwon there to help him to do the dream shake. Just do some of these fadeaway shots. He has to figure
Yep.
out some kind of mid-range game, which he hasn't figured out right now. He's relying on his athleticism, his amazing ball handling for his size. He did some shots and some layups the other day. I mean, it's incredible the things he was doing. I was like, what? This guy's 7'5" doing that. And
Yeah.
it's incredible. He's like a small forward at 7'5". He plays like a small forward, and his defense is ridiculous, man. He's unbelievable. This guy is going to be, mark my word, the best player we have ever seen if
Yeah.
he stays healthy and adds some weight. Okay. This guy, and it gets him mid-range game. Because once he does that, it's game over, bro. I mean, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. He's a unicorn times 3. And you've seen his skill set on display in this finals. He's carrying the Spurs big time. But I got to tell you, another guy that has really impressed me on the Spurs is Dylan Harper, man.
Yeah.
Dylan
Dylan
Harper
Harper.
as a rookie is unbelievable.
I agree. I
Dude,
agree. And
this team is set up to be winning championships for the next. They're going to be in championship discussion for the next 5 to 7 years. And we have our pre-draft show coming up after this. The Spurs is one of the teams I'm covering. They have, I think, 3 or 4 draft picks in this upcoming draft. So it's crazy, man. They're
yeah.
stacked. They're like the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're going to be stacked, and they had arguably the best player in the NBA emerging, because I think Jokic is still better because he's more experienced and just does a lot of things better. But this guy's a freak of nature, bro. He's going to be on the.
Oh no, I agree. And not all the time. They play them together sometimes, but at times it seems to be Dylan Harper or De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah,
And right now I would lean a little more towards Harper
I
than
agree.
Fox.
I
I would
agree.
I would give Fox those crunch minutes. I mean, I would give Harper those crunch minutes. He seems to be more overall game savvy, more aware of his surroundings.
Yes.
Fox seems to be a little more like put your head down and attack the hoop no matter what,
Yeah.
And so for me, they need someone that's more aware of game circumstances. And I think Harper in those circumstances might serve them a little better. And
Yeah,
so
he's bigger and he can play big too, right? So he
yeah,
knows how to do the post up moves a little bit better than Fox. But
no.
Fox is, even though he's a little injured, he is a matchup problem because he's so freaking fast,
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that they don't really take advantage of him being more, kind of drive to the hoop and dish out, as he's doing that. He does it sometimes, but not all the times. He's trying to break down the defense and then, tries to either take a shot or look for a shooter, which he did a lot this last game because they were shooting lights out 3 right now, right? But the thing is that he has the speed to be a problem for anybody to guard him. and
Yeah.
he hasn't necessarily been able to take advantage of that as much as I thought he could in this.
Correct. Well, the Knicks have done a good job collapsing the paint.
Yeah,
Whenever somebody comes in, they've collapsed the paint. Castle, who's a little bigger or a lot bigger than De'Aaron Fox, even he has a hard time getting in there. So the Knicks have done a good job of collapsing the paint. And back to the person that I really think that I don't know if Olajuwon is the player. I don't know if Wemby can emulate that. Not just because of his build and kind of the way he rolls. I
yeah,
would say that he needs to watch game tape on Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant is more the guy, at least right now with his current frame and size.
yeah,
Kevin Durant is more the guy because Kevin Durant can get his shot off whenever he wants. And what's
yes,
interesting about Wemby is that at times it doesn't look like he can. And I don't really know why. And then the other thing I just want to point out on Wemby, he's been getting frustrated. He's been throwing elbows. He got a
yeah,
couple of flagrant fouls.
yep,
He's, he was chirping at Robinson. I'm in your head. And to me, all those things, like, they're not concerning, but like, just be quiet, Wemby, and play your game. Be quiet,
yeah,
play your game. If you want to talk after, talk after. But he's getting emotional on the court, and I think
yes,
that emotion long term is gonna hurt his play. He needs to just keep a level head, do what he's got to do. You know, create his opportunities, create his shots, and whatever Robinson's doing, whatever. There's one where he should have got a flagrant where he tossed Brunson to the ground. He just jammed him, and they
yeah.
didn't call anything.
I know.
And what's funny is Draymond's on the court. Draymond's there, and he goes, "If that was me, I would have got kicked out of the game."
Right,
And I'm
right.
yeah, you're not wrong.
But you know what? You bring up a point, bro. It seems to me that there is a concerted effort, at least from a bystander's point of view, looking at the games, that there's
Yeah,
a concerted effort by the refs to favor the whistle for the Spurs more, man. In
it appears
general,
that way. Yeah,
it appears that way, man. It
yeah,
feels like Adam Silver's like, we can't make this a sweep. You gotta control the game so we can extend, up to 7 games because we've gotten the most views, for finals game 1 since I don't know how many years. It's been like one of the best watched finals matchups in a long time. And to me, it's very blatant to me, man, that
yeah,
whistle has been favoring the Spurs quite a bit. And kudos to the Knicks for being able to overcome that. That's
yeah.
amazing. If I were to look at the Knicks players, no one other than OG Anunoby has really stood
No,
out to me. Nobody. Okay.
no, that's
Karl
including
Anthony
Brunson.
Towns,
Brunson's yeah,
yeah. Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't really score that much. He's done well defensively because he's a bigger guy, and he can kind of body Wembanyama and frustrate him. But then Mikal Bridges is missing sometimes. He's not, and Brunson, he's not efficient, but he's
no,
clutch. He comes up with some
he is clutch.
shots.
He
He's
is
clutch,
clutch.
right?
Yeah,
And then you have, the guy that actually has emerged as kind of a pesky guy is Alvarado. He's actually played some really good minutes, man.
yep,
And he's played very well. So then you got Anunoby, and then you got Josh Hart, who's been kind of off and on too. So it goes
yep,
to show you that there are a bunch of veterans. The way these teams are kind of put together is very different, right? The Spurs are the only really veteran that they have that starts is De'Aaron Fox, really,
correct.
and then on the Knicks, all of them are. They're all playoff,
Yeah,
ready guys. They have all been in playoffs but on different teams. Anunoby's the only one that has a finals a ring, right? He's got one for the Toronto Raptors. I don't think he
correct.
played that much that year, but he's got a ring. And so
Yeah,
he's been on a winning culture. And all the other guys, Mikal Bridges has been in the playoffs with the Phoenix Suns, right? He's, not with the Brooklyn Nets, but then you got Karl-Anthony Towns, who's experienced with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So you have a more experience on the Knicks side, and you can see that coming to fruition here
I
in these
agree.
games. And that's why you're seeing kind of this trend where the Knicks don't really panic if they're down. They were down 29 and they came back. And
Yeah,
every game they've been down to the Spurs, and they come roaring back. That's just like the observation you made. The Spurs start out really hot, and then they have this build this big lead, and then they end up losing it over time. And it's because the experienced Knicks don't panic and they figure it out, and they
yeah,
shop.
yeah.
You know?
But I also think that the Spurs continue to do what worked in the form of 3-point shooting. And I think that once you got a lead, you need to attack the hoop more.
I agree.
You need to go for 2 points more. You need to get the conservative play more. Get them in foul trouble. And there's some players that you didn't mention. Jordan Clarkson, who's been
Absolutely.
a really good player. He's been kind of MIA. Robinson's really kind of been MIA.
Yes.
We have Anunoby, who's had 2 good games. We
Yes.
have Cat, who's really had 1 good game. We've had Brunson, who's been clutch, but statistically speaking, has been subpar. I mean, he's taking
Yes.
a lot of shots to get to the points that he's done, and that's really it. And then you look on the Spurs side. You've got Castle, who's I think is having a really good series. Dylan
Yes.
Harper, who's having a really good series. Wemby, who's having a really good series. So to me, like when you look at this, they're having a good series. The Knicks really aren't, and yet the Knicks have a 3-1 lead. So if the Knicks figure out how to get everyone else involved, this could be a blowout in Texas or blowout in Game 6. But the Spurs need to get that lead and hold that lead. And they need to change, in my opinion, the way they're playing to get the lead versus when they have it. Because if I was just an amateur, psychologist here, I would guess that they're tightening up at the end of the game, and that's why the shots aren't going in. And so therefore, if that's true, take the closer shots, take the higher percentage
Exactly.
shots,
Exactly.
or go feed the big man. You got the biggest dude on the court, by a long shot, and keep feeding him. But this whole continued 3-point, this inside and out, like you're killing me, man. Like it's not going in. And I'm watching that second half, and I'm like, there's another 3 that missed. And every time they miss, they seem further and further away from being able to make one. And it's like,
Yeah.
just get to the hoop. Just get to the hoop. Every time
Yep.
you score a basket, you're killing them, and you're not doing it. So,
And I got to give a kudos to Mike Brown too, because
yeah.
he steadied the ship. He didn't show any panic, man. That guy did not show emotion. He's very steady, throughout the entire process. Shows the confidence that his team can come back. And dude, he actually at one point when they were down quite a bit, it was almost kind of like he was kind of like trying to come up with something that might work. So he throws in Ariel Hukporty, right, who hardly plays in the season. Then he threw in Jeremy Sohan, who hardly plays as well. And these guys gave decent minutes to give some of these other guys a breather. And so I got to give him some credit for at least trying and experimenting, to put some more bodies on. That's all for Wembanyama. That's the whole reason why he put those guys in is that it's a big assignment to take on a Wembanyama, as well as for Mitchell Robinson. Cat and Mitchell Robinson have done a decent job in general. Even though Wembanyama's having great games, he's still those guys are prodding him up and frustrating him. You can see that he is getting frustrated at times. But I gotta tell you, man, Wembanyama's 3-point shooting is way better than I ever thought, man. This guy is unbelievable, dude. His game is unbelievable. He just needs to work on his low post game. And once he does that, he's gonna be a problem, dude, for years to come.
I agree. One thing, just my editorial for the day. I've been watching a lot of social media, a lot of Knicks fans tormenting San Antonio fans, ripping their jersey. I don't know if this is all AI. I don't know if this is real or not, but to the Knicks fans, man, just take it easy on the Spurs fan. Let them be. You're not going to get anything, and and if you believe in karma at all, be careful.
Be careful.
Those things, but yeah, be careful. Those things bite you in the butt. Yeah, be careful. And so that's all I got to say is let the other fans enjoy. Let them do what they got to do, and if that in fact is true, that's happening, just cut it out.
Dude, and all the dignitaries that were there in the game, I'm sure in the first half, they were going, "Oh my god!" You had Seinfeld, you had Spiller, you had Swift, then you have all the old heads, Larry Johnson, Grandmama.
Dude, I saw Sprewell there.
Yes, Sprewell there. All these dignitaries, right? And it's of course Kardashian, Kyrie or Kylie Jenner or whatever her name is. Charlemagne. They were all the dignitaries were out, and John McEnroe. They were all there, and I'm sure they were going, "Crap, they're getting blown out. Let's just go home." And dude, they got rewarded for staying there to the most unbelievable comeback we've ever seen.
I agree. I agree. It was exciting, and like you said last week, the Knicks winning is a good thing for the NBA.
Yes.
They haven't won in quite some time. The fans genuinely, the good fans seem genuinely excited and happy. To the good fans, I hope, this is successful for you. There's also, on the other hand, the exciting up and coming Wembanyama, a team that's ahead of the curve. Some young guys like I like Harper, I like Castle, I like Wembanyama. They've got the beginnings of a big three there, homegrown. So it's just going to be fascinating to see. I do hope that San Antonio wins Game 5 so we can get at least one more game,
Yep.
in New York. And of course, if they've managed to win Games 5 and 6, then we're going to have a Game 7, and that's going to be
Yes.
fun to watch.
Oh
So
yeah,
we'll see how
absolutely,
that
man.
plays out. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see how the things develop, and we'll see if they're able to get the lead and keep the lead, because they haven't been able to do that, 3 out of 4 games.
Yep. And by the time we have our show next week, the finals will likely be over unless there's a game 7. I think game 7, if let me see, tomorrow is no, Saturday is going to be game 5, and then
Correct.
game 6 would be on Monday, and
Correct.
then probably Thursday would be the game 7. Although I'm not looking at schedule, I'm just kind of just
Yeah, presuming. Yeah.
But yeah, so by the time we have our show next week, next Thursday, will be the finals will be over, and we're just pretty much going to be covering our pre-draft coverage, which is what we're going to do right after this show. But we're going to go ahead and end this show. This was all about the NBA Finals between the Knicks and the Spurs. This is Grumblings Media property, Buzzer Beaters. We are here every week to talk about hoops, but we know the hoop season is drawing close to an end, but the draft is coming up, so we're going to go ahead and prep you for that. But anyway, I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is my co-host, Anthony Tuancarral. We're also known as the Cisco Kidz, and you can find us at grumblingsmedia.com or wherever you find your podcasts. All right, everyone, have a good rest of the week, and thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody, this is William Del Pilar, founder of Grumblings Media, and I want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our